snow-covered road wound up the mountain like a quiet serpent, its white breath drifting in the cold morning air. Raiden walked alone, boots sinking into the frost, each step heavier than the last. Not because of the climb. He had faced far worse, but because of the truth that followed him like a shadow he could not outrun. Failure. That word weighed more than any armor he had ever worn. A week earlier, he had been chosen for a mission meant to prove his readiness. Precision, silence, discipline, these were the qualities required. Yet in the moment that mattered, Raiden hesitated. A flicker of doubt, a crack of fear. His blade moved late. An ally was injured. The mission crumbled. His talent should have saved him, he believed. It always had before. But talent had limits, and Raiden had just discovered his. The elders didn't punish him with anger. They punished him with truth. They told him he lacked something more important than skill, a spirit capable of standing firm when the world shook. And so they sent him to the mountain monastery. To Jinsei, a master whose training was said to break men before it built them. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and share so I can keep bringing you great content. The wind slapped Raiden's face as if echoing that warning. He hated the feeling of being corrected, being exposed. His ego fought the sting, whispering excuses. The mission was flawed. The conditions were unfair. Anyone would have hesitated. But excuses don't warm a man on a winter road. Soon the forest opened, revealing the monastery. A simple wooden structure resting beneath towering pines. No banners, no guards, no trophies, just silence, and an unsettling silence, thick enough to press against the chest. Raiden stepped beyond the gate. Master Gensei was already waiting, seated on the wooden platform, sharpening a blade so slowly it looked like meditation. His eyes lifted, not with judgment, but with something worse, clarity. "I expected you yesterday," Gensei said. Raiden frowned. "I left at dawn." Gensei shook his head. "Your body left. Your mind stayed behind." The words cut deeper than any sword. Gensei stood, the old wood creaking beneath him. He examined Raiden not as a warrior, but as a puzzle missing pieces. "You believe your failure came from fear," Gensei said. "But fear was only the smoke. The fire lives deeper." Raiden felt anger rise. "I don't lack strength." "No," Gensei agreed calmly. "You lack discipline. And a man without discipline is a blade without a spine. It bends when pressure comes." The truth stung, because Raiden knew it was real. Gensei motioned toward the training yard. Nothing in it resembled the glory Raiden imagined. No shining weapons, no sparring warriors, no symbols of greatness. Just brooms, buckets, and soft mats. A place for humility, not heroism. "You will begin with silence," Gensei said. "You will learn to listen before you move, to see before you strike, to breathe before you break." Raiden clenched his fists. "I came to sharpen my skill." "You came," Gensei corrected, "to sharpen yourself." A cold breeze carried the scent of pine and the weight of an unspoken truth. Raiden wasn't here to ascend. He was here to unravel. Raiden followed Gensei into the courtyard, the crunch of snow beneath their feet echoing across the open space. The air felt sharper here, as if the mountain itself demanded honesty. Gensei stopped near a wooden post and pointed to a single broom resting against it. "Your first task," he said. Raiden blinked. "Sweep the courtyard?" Gensei nodded. "Until the ground is clean." But it's snowing." "But it's snowing." "Yes. So it will be covered again." "Yes." Raiden's jaw tightened. "This is meaningless." Gensei stepped closer, lowering his voice until it resembled the whisper of the wind. "A warrior who needs meaning in every moment is a prisoner of his own expectations. Discipline is doing what is needed, not what feels worthy." Raiden wanted to argue. His pride almost rose like a flame. Almost. But the memory of failure still bruised his chest, so he grabbed the broom. At first he moved with frustration, quick strokes, uneven movements, breath shaky with annoyance. Snow flew in chaotic arcs, landing in new places faster than he could clear them. Gensei watched silently. Minutes passed, then an hour. The snowfall lightened but did not stop. Raiden's arms ached. His breath fogged the air. The broom became heavier, not physically, but in spirit. He realized how much of his energy was wasted fighting the task rather than doing it. Gensei approached, speaking with a calm authority that cut through the cold. "You move like a man trying to escape himself." Raiden looked up, sweat mixing with frost on his forehead. "I am trying." "No," Gensei said. "You are resisting." The word struck him harder than any blow. Raiden stared at the ground he had cleared, already covered again. Something inside him cracked, not in defeat, but in clarity. He slowed his movements. Instead of battling the task, he allowed himself to be part of it. Stroke after stroke, breath after breath, he found a rhythm. The broom sound softened, his breath deepened. The cold no longer felt hostile. The snow no longer felt like an enemy. Presence replaced frustration. For the first time in years, Raiden felt the simple honesty of doing one thing with his full attention. No mission, no audience, no glory, just movement and breath. When he finally set down the broom, the courtyard looked no different than before. Still white, still quiet. But inside him, something had shifted. The frantic voice that once screamed for progress had begun to fade. Jinsei nodded, seeing the change. You came here thinking your enemy was fear, but your real enemy is your ego, the part of you that demands results, recognition, and reward. Raiden swallowed. How do I defeat it? You don't defeat ego, Jinsei said. You dissolve it. One humble act at a time. They walked toward the monastery hall. The sky above them dimmed into early evening, the world wrapped in a quiet blue. Raiden felt an unfamiliar sense of stillness settling in his chest. Not victory, not pride. Something quieter, acceptance. As the first day ended, he realized the path ahead would not sharpen him. It would strip him, reveal him, rebuild him. And he stepped into that unknown willingly. Morning in the monastery did not arrive gently. It struck like a bell. Before the sun touched the mountain peaks, Jinsei's voice echoed through the corridors. Arise! Raiden opened his eyes to a room as bare as his new life. No ornaments, no weapons, no distractions. Only a mat, a blanket, and the cold breath of dawn slipping through the paper walls. He stepped outside, expecting sword drills or combat stances. Instead, Jinsei handed him 2 buckets. Water, the master said, from the river below. Fill the cistern. Do not spill. Raiden frowned. Master, this isn't training. Jinsei raised an eyebrow. Is that your conclusion? Or your impatience speaking? Raiden didn't answer. He carried the buckets down the steep stone path. The river cut through the valley like a winding blade, cold and clear. Raiden dipped the buckets, filled them, lifted them, and immediately felt the burn across his shoulders. The climb back up was brutal. Halfway up, his arms trembled. Water sloshed out, splashing onto his legs. He clenched his teeth and pushed harder. When Raiden returned to the courtyard, chest-heaving, Jinsei didn't praise him. He pointed to the path. Again, Raiden stared at him. I just came from there. And your point? Frustration surged. I came here to become a warrior, not a laborer. Jinsei stepped forward, eyes unwavering. A warrior who cannot command his body cannot command his blade. A warrior who cannot command his emotions cannot command his fate. He placed a hand on Raiden's shoulder, but the touch was not comforting. It was grounding. You wish for discipline, Jinsei said, but you still worship motivation. You train well only when you feel strong, inspired, eager. That is not the samurai way. That is the way of children. Raiden lowered his gaze, ashamed. Jinsei's tone softened, but only slightly. The strength is built by doing what bores you, pains you, and humbles you, until it becomes your nature. For hours, Raiden climbed the path up and down, each trip a war against his pride. His shoulders screamed, his legs buckled, but something else began to shift. His mind, once loud with complaint, slowly grew quiet. The rhythm took over. Step, breath, lift, step, breath, lift. Not heroic, not glamorous, but real. By noon, his tunic was soaked with river water and sweat. When he placed the final buckets into the cistern, his arms felt like carved stone. Jinsei appeared beside him, silent, observing. Finally, he said, "A good." Something about that single word struck Raiden more deeply than applause ever had. Good. Not because he was impressive, not because he excelled, but because he endured. Jinsei handed him a wooden sword. Raiden's heart quickened, and now the master said, "We're first blade." Raiden gripped the weapon, expecting combat stance training. Jinsei pointed at a single wooden post. A strike. Raiden swung. Again. He swung. Again. He swung. Again. And again. And again. And again. Hours passed. The strikes became slower, heavier. His hands blistered. His shoulders throbbed. His breath grew ragged. But Jinsei's voice remained steady. Again. Each repetition stripped away another layer of pride. Another layer of pride. Another layer of impatience. Another layer of the man who relied on talent instead of discipline. By sunset, Raiden's arms were numb. By nightfall, he could barely hold the practice blade. Yet in that exhaustion, something crystallized. Skill grows in moments of intensity. Mastery grows in the moments that bore you. When Raiden finally released the sword, The world around him felt sharper, clearer, quiet. Not because he had grown stronger, but because he had begun to obey purpose over emotion. Night fell over the monastery like a heavy curtain, but Raiden's training did not end. Jinsei led him to a dim hall illuminated only by a single lantern. Shadows stretched across the wooden floor like silent testaments of every warrior who had trained there before. "Sit," Kensho said. Raiden obeyed, wincing as his muscles resisted. The master placed the wooden sword across Raiden's knees. "So tell me," Jinsei asked quietly, "what did you learn today?" Raiden hesitated. His old self wanted to say something clever, something impressive, but the day had carved honesty into him. "I learned that I hate repetition," he admitted, "and that I avoid anything that doesn't feel exciting." Jinsei closed his eyes as if listening to the shape of the words. "And what does that make you?" Raiden swallowed. "Undisciplined." "I know," Jinsei said, "but that makes you normal. Discipline begins where normal men refuse to continue, and my task is to remove the normal from you." He tapped the wooden sword with his finger. This is the first blade," Jinsei said. Not a weapon, a mirror." Raiden frowned. "How can a sword be a mirror?" Jinsei rose, pacing slowly around him like an old lion. "Because every strike you delivered today was a reflection of your spirit. Your frustration revealed your impatience. Your blisters revealed your lack of preparation. Your slowing rhythm revealed your collapsing focus." He crouched in front of Raiden, eyes sharp but calm. "A man thinks he trains to strengthen his body, but true training unmasks his weakness." Raiden felt the truth settle in his chest like a stone sinking into quiet water. Jinsei stood again and walked to the lantern. With a swift motion, he extinguished the flame. Darkness swallowed the hall. "A stand," Jinsei's voice commanded. Raiden pushed himself upright, relying on instinct. "A strike." Raiden swung the blade through darkness. Air moved, but his footing slipped. Again, he struck, this time too high. Again, too wide. Again, too slow. The darkness stripped him of confidence, forcing him to feel each movement instead of seeing it. He began to recognize the tremor in his shoulders, the uneven tension in his grip, the small betrayals of a mind still too emotional, too reactive. Jinsei's voice emerged from somewhere unseen. "You rely on your eyes too much. A warrior relies on his presence." Raiden inhaled. Presence. The word from the monastery gate. The word he had ignored. He listened to the faint scrape of his foot on the wood. And then his next strike landed clean, balanced, quiet. True. A soft exhale came from the shadows. Jinsei's acknowledgement. "Oh, good. Now you understand." Raiden lowered the sword, breath steady. "What did I understand, Master?" "Master." This time, Jinsei lit the lantern again, revealing his face. Thoughtful, proud in the way mountains are proud. Silently. "You learned the first law of the ancient system," he said. Raiden leaned forward. Jinsei held up one finger. "A warrior does not train for excitement. A warrior trains for alignment." "Alignment of what?" Raiden asked. Jinsei tapped Raiden's chest. "A mind." He tapped the wooden blade. "A body." Then the floor beneath them. "A purpose." When these three move as one, fear cannot touch you. Doubt cannot enter. Weakness cannot survive. Raiden felt the words strike deeper than any blow. Jinsei stepped back and opened the hall doors. Cold mountain air swept in, fresh and unfiltered. "Arrest now," he said. "Anakara, we begin again. And again. And again. And again." Raiden bowed, knowing now that repetition was not punishment, it was the path. Night in the mountains carried a different kind of silence. A silence that didn't invite peace, but exposed anything inside a man that trembled. By the time Raiden reached the monastery courtyard, the moon was high, cold, and watchful. Jinsei stood waiting, his silhouette fixed like an ancient statue carved from patience itself. "You have trained your hands," the master said. "You have trained your breath. Today, you train your shadows." Raiden stiffened. "Shadows, master?" Jinsei pointed toward the dense forest beyond the stone steps, a place the monks never entered after dusk. "Tonight, you walk into the dark alone." A knot tightened in Raiden's throat. He had fought men, storms, even starvation during his earlier journeys. But the forest at night, that was different. Jinsei noticed the subtle shift in Raiden's breath. "You think fear comes from what is in the forest," he said softly. "It does not. Fear comes from what is already inside you, waiting for darkness to become loud." Raiden said nothing. The master placed a small paper lantern in his hand. Fragile, flickering, barely alive. "This light will not last long," Jinsei warned. "But your awareness must." Raiden inhaled, bowed, and stepped toward the tree line. As he entered the forest, the world changed. The air thickened. The temperature dropped. Every sound sharpened, the crunch of leaves beneath his feet, the distant hoot of an owl, the faint rustle of unseen movement. His lantern flickered violently. Raiden tightened his grip. Minutes passed and more. The mountain wind sighed through the branches like a warning. Halfway down the narrow trail, the lantern died. Darkness swallowed him. His breath caught. His pulse spiked. The forest became a void, a world where his senses misfired and his imagination became a cruel storyteller. Something snapped behind him. Raiden spun, fists raised. Nothing. Another sound, closer this time. His mind raced. Maybe something is following me. A beast, a spirit, a thief, or maybe you're still the same weak man who failed. The inner voice struck with precision. Raiden felt his throat tighten. A wave of old memories crashed against him. The mission he failed, the comrades he disappointed, the shame he tried to bury under effort and anger. In that blackness, the truth hit him. The fear wasn't the forest. It was him. He pressed a palm against a tree, grounding himself. Breathe. Just breathe. He whispered the technique Jinsei taught him in the mornings. Inhale, I face. Exhale, I remain. Slowly, painfully, the panic receded. With no lantern, he moved by feel. The bark beneath his fingers, the earth shifting under his feet, the sky barely visible through the canopy above. Every step became a conversation with the dark. Eventually, he reached a small clearing. Moonlight spilled in like a silver pool, revealing a stone shrine covered in moss. A place untouched, forgotten, holy. Raiden knelt, and the darkness around him finally spoke. Not in sounds, not in threats, but in memories. The argument with his father, the guilt he carried from childhood. The secret belief that he was never enough unless he proved himself again and again and again and again. Tears surprised him, hot, unwanted. He wiped them quickly, ashamed. A voice slipped out of the shadows. Oh, why do you hide tears that belong to truth? Raiden turned sharply. Jinsei stepped into the clearing, his face lit by the moon. A master, why are you here? Jinsei's eyes softened. To watch a man meet the part of himself he avoids. Raiden lowered his gaze. I wasn't afraid of the forest. No, Jinsei finished. You were afraid the old Raiden still lives inside you. The words hit harder than any blow. Jinsei knelt beside him. A fear is not the enemy. The ego that fears dying is as and then felt something crumble inside. A wall he had built his entire life. And through the cracks, a new kind of strength began to seep in. Jinsei did not speak for a long time. He simply watched Raiden breathe, watched the tremor in his shoulders fade, watched the tightness in his jaw loosen, watched him return to his body after wrestling his own shadows. When the silence was finally ready, the master stood. Walk with me, he said. They moved deeper into the forest, the moon lighting their path in fragments. It felt less threatening now, not because the forest had changed, but because Raiden had. Jinsei's voice broke the quiet. Tell me what you feared. Raiden hesitated. The words felt heavy. Failing again, he admitted. Of failing myself, failing others, becoming the same man who always breaks when things grow difficult. Jinsei nodded as though he had been expecting that answer for years. A fear, the master said, is a mask. The ego wins. I tells you the world is dangerous when the truth is simpler. You fear losing the identity you built. Raiden frowned. What identity? The identity of the talented warrior, Jinsei answered. The one who succeeds easily. The one who looks strong. The one who hides his wounds because he believes wounds make him unworthy. The words sliced through Raiden's chest. Jinsei continued. And when you entered this forest, the darkness didn't attack you. Your ego did. It reminded you of your past, it whispered old pain. It turned shadows into monsters, because monsters justify fear. They reached a fallen tree. Jinsei sat, Raiden followed like an obedient shadow. Most men, the master added, never outgrow their fear because they never outgrow the stories they tell themselves. Raiden lowered his eyes. What story do I tell myself? Jinsei looked at him with a gaze both sharp and compassionate. That you must prove something to be worthy. That discipline is punishment. That strength comes from display, not depth. That fear is a sign of weakness instead of a sign of ego dying. Raiden's breath shortened, not from fear but from sudden recognition. He whispered, I never wanted to be weak. Jinsei placed a hand on his shoulder. I then stopped trying to be invulnerable. A man who pretends to be unbreakable never learns how to be whole. The forest wind swirled gently around them, carrying leaves in soft spirals. Raiden looked up at the moon, pale, distant, steady. "Hey, Master," he said quietly, "how do I kill the ego?" Kensho smiled, the kind of smile that held both kindness and challenge. "You do not kill it, you expose it." He pointed toward Raiden's chest. The ego is loud only when unexamined. Fear thrives only when unacknowledged. Shadows grow only when you refuse to face them. He stood and began walking again. "And tonight you saw your fear. Tomorrow, you learn to stand above it." As they left the clearing, Raiden felt lighter, as if he'd left a version of himself behind. But just before reaching the monastery steps, Kensho stopped. He stopped. "One more lesson," he said without turning around. "A fear does not vanish. A warrior simply stops obeying it." Raiden let the words sink deep into the places the darkness had exposed. The trial had not removed his fear, but it stripped away its authority. He followed Kensho back through the quiet mountain path, back to the monastery stones still warm from the day's sun, back to the place where his new identity would be forged. The morning began without ceremony. No drums, no chants, no guidance. Only the soft breath of the mountain wind pushing against the temple doors. Raiden stepped outside expecting a new technique, a new kata, a new form to master. Instead, he found Kensho sitting beside a single wooden post buried in the earth. No swords, no bow, no challenge, only a post. Raiden frowned. "This is today's training?" Kensho did not answer. He simply tapped the post with the tip of his staff and said, "A strike." Raiden waited for more instructions. None came. So he struck. A clean, sharp hit. Focused. Powerful. Confident. Kensho nodded once. "Good. Now do it again." Raiden struck again and again and again. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Then two. The mountain sun climbed higher, burning the back of his neck. His shoulders trembled. His wrists numbed. His breath grew shallow. Yet Jinsai's command remained the same. Again. Raiden's mind screamed for something new. A sword drill. A footwork pattern. A battle form. Anything but this suffocating repetition. "This is pointless," Raiden muttered under his breath. Kensho heard. He always heard. Without lifting his gaze, he said, "If a man cannot repeat a movement without breaking his spirit, he will break in every battle he enters." Raiden clenched his teeth and struck again. The post shook, but not as much as his certainty. By the afternoon, his strikes grew sloppy. His stance crumbled. His breath collapsed. Kensho stepped forward and placed a hand on the post. "Do you know why ancient warriors feared boredom more than combat?" Raiden looked up, confused and exhausted. "Because boredom reveals the truth," Kensho said. "It shows you how weak your mind truly is." Raiden wanted to argue, but the words froze in his throat. He didn't need to speak. His frustration betrayed him. Kensho continued, "You believe strength was built through intensity, through dramatic moments, through battles worthy of legends." He stepped back. "But strength is built here, in the silent repetition your ego hates." Raiden swallowed hard. His entire life had been fueled by emotion, motivation, adrenaline, the thrill of improvement. But this training was not thrilling. It was suffocating, endless, quiet, unrewarding. It was everything his ego despised, and perhaps that was the point. By the 5th hour, blisters tore open on his palms. Blood smeared the wooden post. Sweat dripped from his chin like rain. Still, Kensho did not stop him. Raiden's vision blurred. His muscles trembled. His breath felt like sandpaper. For a moment, he considered dropping his arms. For a moment, he considered walking away. For a moment, he considered quitting. But then he remembered the night he failed his mission. The hesitation. The shame. The moment the old Raiden cracked under pressure, he raised his arms again. Not for pride.
Not for Jinsai.
Not even for mastery. But because he was finally learning the truth. The body breaks long after the mind surrenders. And if he could train the mind not to surrender, the body would follow. He struck the post once more, a weak, shaking, imperfect hit. Kensho nodded. "Good," he said softly. "And now the real training begins." The next morning, Kensho was already waiting for Raiden outside the training hall. No greeting, no instruction, only a single gesture toward the wooden steps leading up the mountain trail. Raiden followed. The path twisted upward through cedar trees and stone lanterns worn smooth by centuries of wind. At the top sat a small wooden platform facing the rising sun. There was nothing on it except a single wooden practice sword. Jinsai placed it in Raiden's hands. "Today," he said, "you will repeat one cut until the mountain accepts it." Raiden raised a brow. "How many times?" Jinsai turned away. until the part of you that seeks numbers finally dies. Raiden breathed in, feeling the cool bite of morning air settle into his lungs. He stepped forward, lifted the sword, cut downward, once, then again, then again. Hours blurred, sweat dripped into the wood grain beneath his feet. His shoulders trembled, his breath grew ragged. But Jinsei never spoke. By the time noon arrived, Raiden's arms felt carved from stone. Every motion burned. Every lift of the blade sent a tremor through his elbow. His mind begged for rest. But the mountain didn't move for him. The sun didn't pause for him. The task didn't care for him. And in that indifference, Raiden found something new. At some point, he didn't know when, the pain became background noise. The frustration dissolved. His thoughts quieted. The cut became simpler, cleaner, effortless. He no longer counted. He no longer asked how long. He no longer fought the repetition. He just moved. One cut, one breath, one intention. The mountain was silent. The trees stood witness, and Jinsei watched from a distance, nodding slowly as the young warrior's stance shifted not with power, but with purity. When sunset washed the sky in muted amber, Jinsei finally stepped forward. "That," he said softly, "was your first true strike." Raiden stared at him, exhausted. Exhausted. Because it was powerful. No, the master shook his head. Raiden didn't understand, not fully, but something inside him recognized the truth. The strike wasn't perfect. It was real, untangled from ego, untangled from impatience. Jinsei placed a hand lightly on Raiden's shoulder. "A man trains his body for a year and thinks he deserves mastery," he said. "But the ancient system teaches otherwise." He pointed to Raiden's chest. "The body bends quickly. The mind bends slowly. But the spirit resists until it breaks." Raiden felt the words settle into him like stone into earth. Jinsei continued, "A transformation is not born from one powerful moment. It is born from 1,000 small steps, 1,000 small choices, 1,000 silent victories over the weaker self." They began walking back toward the monastery. With each step, Raiden felt different, not stronger, but steadier. The mountain wind brushed past him as if acknowledging the shift within. That night, as Raiden washed his hands in cold river water, he noticed something surprising. His reflection wasn't the same man who climbed the steps earlier that morning. His eyes no longer chased perfection. They chased presence. Discipline wasn't something he was forcing anymore. It was something he was becoming. Slowly, quietly, ruthlessly. Jinsei's final words of the day echoed in his mind. When a man commits to small steps without end, weakness has nowhere left to live. And with that understanding, Raiden moved toward the next trial, the one waiting in the silence. The morning of the silent trial arrived without announcement. No bells. Why did you hesitate? Why did you fail them? Why do you fear your potential more than your weakness? At first, the questions wounded him. Then, they carved him. Then, they softened. Because in the raw solitude, Raiden discovered a truth only a few men ever face. The voice that torments you is the same voice that can free you, if you stop running from it. He leaned into the whispers, followed them deeper, watched every insecurity rise like dark smoke and dissipate in the stillness. By the fourth day, the storm inside him began to collapse, not with violence, but like a flame gently running out of fuel. Thoughts lost weight. Memories lost venom. Fear lost its claws. A quiet clarity emerged, sharp as a mountain edge, soft as fresh snowfall. No future, no past. Only breath, only awareness, only now. His heartbeat slowed into a steady rhythm. His mind, once a battlefield, settled into the stillness of a lake without wind. By the sixth day, Raiden no longer feared the silence. He welcomed it. He understood why men avoided this trial. Not because silence was painful, but because silence reveals truth. The truth of wasted time. The truth of undisciplined impulses. The truth of who you truly are when no one is watching. But by sitting with the truth, by not running, Raiden touched something deeper than strength, a power that didn't roar, but hummed, steady, constant, unshakable. The seventh sunrise arrived quietly. A thin blade of golden light sliced through the darkness as the door slid open. Raiden did not react at first. He was beyond reaction, beyond time, beyond fear. Master Jinsei stood at the doorway, face unreadable. Raiden slowly lifted his head. His eyes had changed. No agitation, no restlessness, no frantic hunger to prove himself. Only presence, only discipline, only discipline. Only silence mastered. Jinsei stepped forward and bowed, a gesture he had never offered Raiden before. And now, the master said softly, you understand the ruthless self-control no one warned you about. Raiden rose, body stiff but spirit clean, like steel cooled after the final strike. You entered this hut as a man seeking strength, Jinsei continued. You leave it as a man who no longer needs to seek. Raiden exhaled, a breath that felt like the first one of his life. The mountain wind waited outside. The path stretched before him. But for the first time, his steps felt certain. He had mastered silence, and a man who masters silence masters himself. Dawn breaks like a blade of gold across the horizon. Ki and Master Raikou reach the base of the highest peak, a mountain the elders call Kensho, the place where warriors see themselves with absolute clarity. The air is thin. The silence is ancient. Every step feels like walking deeper into the soul. Raikou stops before the first stone gate. Symbols carved by monks long dead glow faintly in the early light. Raikou. This mountain is not climbed by strength. It rises only for those willing to confront truth. Every warrior who sought awakening passed through here. Few returned. Chai swallows. Not out of fear, but because he finally understands the weight of the path he chose. They begin the ascent. The path is narrow, twisting like a serpent. Cold wind tears at Kai's robes, reminding him that the mountain accepts no excuses, no weakness, no hesitation. Halfway up, Raikou speaks, his voice steady but carrying a current of something new. Finality. Raikou. Chi. This part of the path you must walk alone. Kai pauses. The world goes quiet. For the first time, he sees something in Raikou's eyes that was never there before. A softness buried deep beneath decades of discipline. Kai. Master. Why can't you come with me? Raikou touches the hilt of his sword, the movement slow, almost ceremonial. Raikou. Because awakening cannot be witnessed. It must be endured. A warrior's transformation is a solitary fire, and only you can choose to burn or rise. Sai looks up at the endless stairs carved into the mountain. Then at the man who shaped him, guided him, and stripped away his fears piece by piece. He bows not as a student, but as a rising warrior. Kai, a thank you, master, for breaking me open. Raikou closes his eyes. A single exhale. Proud. Ancient. Raikou. A go. Kensho is waiting. Ki turns and steps toward the path that leads into the clouds. His heartbeat is steady. His spirit sharp. His fear silent. The mountain accepts him, and the true test begins. Ki climbs alone. The wind grows colder, sharper, like a whisper from the mountain itself, testing his resolve with every breath. His legs burn, his chest tightens, but his mind remains still. Hours pass. Clouds drift past him like wandering ghosts. Until finally, Kai reaches a plateau carved into the mountainside, a circular stone chamber open to the sky. In its center stands a single black mirror, tall as a warrior. Polished so perfectly it reflects more than the body. It reflects the spirit. Kai steps closer. The moment his reflection appears, the air shifts, the mirror ripples like water, and suddenly, he is no longer looking at himself. He is looking at the version of himself he fears most. A Kai with doubt in his eyes. A Kai who runs instead of faces. A Kai who clings to pain, excuses, and weakness. The mirror Ki speaks, his voice dripping with every insecurity Kai ever buried. Mirror Ki, you think discipline has made you strong? No, you've only been hiding behind it. Behind Raikou, behind the path. Ki breathes in, slow, controlled like Raikou taught him. But the mirror version steps closer, face twisted with contempt. Mirror Ki, we're still the boy who feared being nothing. You chase strength because you fear who you are without it. The words hit Chi like arrows, not because they are lies, but because they are true. He feels his chest tighten, his breath crack, almost breaking. But then something shifts. Kai closes his eyes. He remembers Raikou's voice. A warrior does not run from his shadow. He kneels before it. Kai opens his eyes. Calm, steady, unflinching. He steps forward, nose to nose with his darker reflection. I am not here to destroy you. I am here to integrate you. The mirror flickers, shocked, trembling. Kai, you are my fear, my weakness, my doubt, but you are also my teacher, my fire, my reminder. The mirror Kai's expression softens for the first time. Cracks spread across the dark reflection. The edges glow like embers. Kai places his palm against the glass. Kai, accept you. The mirror shatters, but there is no explosion, no violence. Just a burst of warm white light that wraps around Ki like a cloak. When the light fades, he realizes he is glowing from within, not with power, but with clarity. Kensho